What's up, Glory Gang? Welcome back to another amazing episode of the Glory Boys podcast. Today we have a special guest, Tim Rexius, in the house. We're super excited. Tons of fun stuff to talk about. Before we hit it, let's hit the intro. Well, Tim, thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast. It's a true honor to have you. And for those of you who don't have any idea, if you don't live in Omaha, if you do, you probably know who he is. But if you don't, I'll just read it because there's a pretty long list of accolades, and he's just an amazing guy. So Tim is the president and CEO of Rexius Nutrition. They have 31 locations in 9 states. He is also the co-owner and co-founder of Iron Heaven Gyms. Are those all here in Omaha?
Those are all in the metro right now. Yeah.
For right now. Awesome gyms, 3 fitness facilities here in the Omaha Metro, owner and founder of Vital Health International Nutraceutical Company and OPP Protein Popcorn Company, now currently retailing in 27 states. Ooh. Dang, I didn't even know that. You have 6 kids.
Yeah.
That is crazy, but amazing. And you have a wife, Brittany, who is also awesome. We've met her.
Yes.
And you love Jesus.
Big time.
Which is awesome.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. The 6 kids are the cause for the gray hair. It's not the businesses, you know. My wife is amazing. I outkick my coverage by massive amounts. And I just always say, I told her the day we got married, I go, this is the best I will ever look. It only gets worse. But I get funnier with time. You're welcome.
Nice.
And I've stayed true to that all these years.
Yeah.
And she looks better and I don't. But that's okay. We have 6 kids and the businesses are booming. And it's been insane. Yeah, it was the nutraceuticals and the OPP protein popcorn we're halfway through the U.S. right now. So the big goal this year is we made some bets. We had certain goals. My staff talked me into it. So if we reach a certain number of monetary goals, I have to get a tattoo of Betty White on my body.
Dang.
Wow.
You get to choose? Where?
No.
No.
There's been suggestions. But if it gets the guys and the gals motivated, I'm like, let's go. Why not? I mean, I'm not exactly short on tattoos.
I don't feel like, I don't know who really loses in that scenario.
I think Betty White is she's an American treasure. Okay?
I mean, yeah.
So
R.I.P.
I am, and it's my wife's hero. So, it'd be funny, but it gets all my staff all motivated and jacked up. I'm like, and as the boss, I got to be willing to put it all on the line, otherwise nobody else will. So.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. That's amazing.
First nugget of the day right there.
There we go.
So you've accomplished a lot. I mean, you've lived a long time. You've done a lot of amazing things, and you've been successful in a lot of different areas, types of different businesses. And so, where did it all start? Like, how did you say, I want to be an entrepreneur and start businesses, and where did it begin?
If you ask my parents, they would say it was my genuine, just absolute dislike for authority figures in my life. I went to a Catholic school growing up, and God bless the nuns and the priests and the teachers for not killing me because I was terrible. And, I was always told growing up, like, if you ever put your mouth to work for business, you're going to be very successful. And that kind of stuck. My parents said it to me too. Wow. And, and I think maybe it was just, growing up in Norfolk, Nebraska, it's kind of it's a great city growing up. It looked like a city when growing up. My wife calls it a village. But, it seemed huge when I was growing up. Yeah. And I just knew that I wanted to make a name for myself as much as anything. And my older brother was very influential in that aspect. Like, let's go make a name for ourselves, because Rexius isn't very common. There's not a lot of us. That I got into college. I kind of got in the nutrition industry, and I found something that made me passionate, I guess, because I can help people change their physique. Look good, feel good is an expression for a reason, and helping people overcome that. And me growing up as the chubby kid from Norfolk, Nebraska, granted I grew like 8 inches in 2 years, so it kind of thinned out, but I had that mentality, where I just want to be in shape. And I just got addicted to the gym and training and sports and just nutrition and how I could change my body, my physique, and how it not only changed me physically, but changed me mentally and the confidence and all those things I lacked when I was younger. And it just gave a lot of power, and I wanted to share that with everybody. Wow. I got different opportunities in business, and my grandfather said something. There's a million ways to make $1 million. Pick one and go. It's just excuses. 80% of millionaires in the United States inherited $0.
Yeah.
For me, that millionaire status was like a big deal. And I'm like, And I'm like, okay, let's just find things. And I didn't want to be those people sitting around in my 60s, 70s, and 80s saying, I had that idea. You know, I'm the guy that took the idea, and I'm not afraid to fail.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing. And I'm more of a serial entrepreneur. You know, there's different classifications. You have a serial entrepreneur, you have a modified entrepreneur, and you have an entrepreneur. All three are great. Entrepreneurs are people who want to work for a small business company, be part of the foundational process, but maybe not quite take the same amount of risk, right?
Yeah, sure.
Your medium entrepreneurs, your modular entrepreneurs are people who are going to buy into a franchise, right? They're going to buy into a successful model, have some direction, but they're still taking a lot of risk. And then you have serial entrepreneurs, and we're just crazy. I just think of things, I'm like, nobody's ever thought of that. I better do it first. And I have this like sense of urgency constantly, which is interesting because then, you know, my wife always supports me, but I know I have to get the sale past her first. Well, that also makes me cement my feet. Is this a good idea or not?
Yeah.
Anybody who's met my wife understands that, you know, she's a lot tougher than I am. So, you know, but yeah, it's kind of how it all started. And, you know, I've been blessed to be around so many great people, and the added expression of be the person you needed at that point. And I find so many great employees, and I'm like, you know, I want these people to be partners. They should be a partner. And so I just keep starting businesses and making my best employees at Rexy as partners in new businesses. And only bad thing is that I run out of employees. So, but yeah, it's been an amazing journey for the last 20 years, and we're not even close to being where we want to be in 10. So
yeah. Hey man, that's awesome.
That's so good.
I don't know if you knew this, but I'm from Norfolk. I don't know if I've told you that before, but I have this, it's an interesting perspective because I remember, was the Norfolk location your first or was it Columbus?
That was my second location. Omaha, Center Street was my first. Okay. Norfolk was my second. Okay.
Yeah. And I remember, like, I would think I was in high school when that store launched, maybe. A couple of my friends worked there. And so it's just really cool, like, to see, and that was way back in high school, and now seeing where you guys are at now, it's just pretty cool. But it's interesting that I met you then again through church and all of that stuff. And so, yeah, that's awesome, man. You guys are killing it, making big, huge moves.
I have 6 kids to pay for. I have to. They're expensive. You know, you've met my oldest, Lexi. That wedding wasn't free. So, you know, and I have 2 more daughters, and I think they're even bougier than Lexi is. So, yeah, I gotta keep grinding. But yeah,
that's right.
I got 2 turning 16 right now, so I have to buy 2 cars.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing tonight, and it's gonna be terrible.
You're buying 2 cars like tonight. Nice.
Yeah, it's not. The prices aren't going down. So
you just got to knock it out.
I'll just go rip the Band-Aid off, and they're gonna get what they get, and if they don't like it, you can walk.
Yeah. So, there you go. Well, it's like 0 degrees, so I think they'll drive whatever you get them.
That's my thoughts. Yeah.
That's awesome. I think one of my favorite things that you've done, and we've been on your podcast, and that was really fun. Quite a while now, but you really say that, like, whatever company you're leading or Rexius or whatever it is, it's you just want it to feel like a family.
Yeah.
And you really bring people in, and I think it's cool. Like, you see something in people and you bring them in, you try to help them get on their feet sometimes, or sometimes you're trying to help them get out of trouble or whatever that looks like. You're trying to really, like, change their life. Like you just said a little bit ago, you see what fitness and what starting businesses and what all of that has done for your life. You're like, man, I want to get that into people's worlds. And I think that's really cool. What inspired that in you? Like, why do you care about helping people?
Pure faith, honestly. You know, I've been through a lot in my life. I have a lot of major traumas, and God is so good. You know, I mean, I'm standing here as a miracle. I should have died in multiple car accidents. You know, I've gone through financial reversals and bankruptcies. I've gone through just some crazy things that would, you know, knock most people down. And, you know, I know that I am here for a purpose. I know that God has blessed me to be in a position to do this, and my job is to pay it forward. God wants business owners. God wants people to be successful. He wants to multiply that. And, you know, for us, you know, especially in the United States right now, there's so many things going on culturally, right? And there's one massively independent group, and that's the business owner group. We employ 48% of the population.
Wow.
And we're unbuyable. We don't pick teams because we understand math. And, you know, we have to look at the very real aspect of what policies actually do to our staff, our employees, our finances, our lending capabilities, all the things it takes to run multi-state businesses. You know, we're still considered small, you know? And so for me, if we want our country and our society and a place for our kids to grow up in there, it's really going to come down to the independent business owners, because we employ half the country.
Yeah.
We're unbuyable. We don't play team sports, which means we don't play red or blue. We play green. And, it has to make sense.
Yeah.
And I think that's huge for us. And that's a big passion of mine. It's just to pay it forward and be that person that I needed at that point in time. And, I got the vision to do Rexius Nutrition. It was my business plan in college. So the highest grade I ever got was a D. Teacher didn't like me. Or it was more than one teacher. But, I was at a Christian conference. I was 28 years old. I didn't have the money to start the business when I was 22. I was broke and went and worked on pandemic outbreaks, actually, for about 6 years with the FDA and EPA.
Nice.
It was eating my soul. Dealing with politicians will absolutely eat your soul. But
sure.
I'm at a Christian conference, and there's a pastor for the Cincinnati Reds who's actually up there speaking. The guy's just really funny and just asked some prayer, and it just came to me. Do the plan. I knew instantly what it was. I went home, and over a year, I sold everything I owned. I kid you not. Everything that wasn't bolted to the floor was sold on eBay and Craigslist.
Wow.
My two of my kids at the time thought that they were next. Like that was because I sold everything.
Yeah.
And stuff, and I saved up every dime I had. I sold my house during the 2009 housing crash at a $50,000 loss.
Wow.
Moved to Omaha, signed a lease purely based on faith. So I understand, and this is 2010. This is in one of our competitors was based out of Omaha. They were in 30 states at the time. We're talking a $300 or $400 million company spending $100,000 a month on the radio here. So we're talking extremely intense. And I've got a shoestring budget, right? I've got used gondolas I bought on Marketplace from some Walgreens that shut down in the middle of nowhere, Iowa, that I had to paint by hand. I'm talking just ghetto, real ghetto. And how I got my location. I met the realtor, the guy who owned the building, at a graduation party when he had a few too many beers, and got him talking to give me a spot. Called him on Monday. Oh, I did say that. I'm like, yep, and I recorded it. And it's just all these things that are just nuts and how I got that business. Yeah. And I'm not egotistical enough to think that that's based on my own ability.
100%.
And I guess that's just that my faith is strong in that aspect. Okay, I got this vision from you. I'm doing this. I'm going to put it in there, and it's my job. Isn't to hoard money. It isn't to hoard that kind of stuff. It's to make more people and be that blessing that maybe God puts me in their path to allow them to get there. So,
Dude, that's awesome.
And that's and that was just in the stores. And then it was funny because obviously Brittany and I are a blended family.
Yeah. And
I was doing well. I was doing pretty good. On my own. I met Brittany, and she likes to claim to fame that we went from one state of operation at year 3. To 5 states of operation in 12 months after I met Brittany. And that's what kind of power having the right partner is. Because it wasn't just stuff she was doing. It was the ultimate power couple team, boosted my confidence up. And then wherever I was, parts that I'm not as strong in, she is very strong in. And then, kept going and kept going. And then I compete in a bodybuilding show in 2017. Against my better judgment, and out in LA, went to a gym the next day, and Brittany had talked about wanting to open a gym since the day I'd met her. It had been 4 or 5 years, obviously, just nonstop. Let's open a gym. I'm like, I don't want to open a gym. Well, Nick, who's now our business partner, was my employee at the time. He was out there with us, and hey, we went to a gym, we should open a gym like this. And 25 times later, between LAX and Omaha Airport, I had 7 cocktail napkins with a logo and this, and I leap. It's an educated risk, but calculated, but I signed a lease. That was it. I didn't have the loan yet. Signed for 8,000 square foot building, and
wow,
boom, boom, boom. Here we are in our 3rd location, brand new 10,000 square foot facility. We're at max capacity, looking to do a 4th one. So,
dude, that's amazing.
Yeah,
I think it's just the thing that I hear in your story is really just you're faithful with little and faithful with much. That God keeps bringing more your way because, you take your one gym. You're faithful with it and you run, or you're faithful with your one location on Center Street. And now it's man, now look what you're doing. And now I just saw you post, you were I think talking about your protein popcorn, talk a little bit about so you have your Rexius Nutrition, then you also have your gyms, which you're looking for a 4th location. But what are some of the things that you're doing kind of outside of that, and what's new, what's fresh?
Well, I've been, my background's in biomechanical engineering, so I've been formulating products in the nutraceutical industry for about 20 years, even when I wasn't here. And I kept selling my I worked other people. I need money. I was broke. Yeah. And, eventually I just didn't want to have a house brand until I felt like I had a big enough following that it made sense.
Yeah.
And so I started out as a house brand, my own vitamins, my own gummy vitamins, and more or less just for my kids. Like, I have 6 children. I have a market test right in my house and none of them agree on anything ever. And so I'm like, listen, if I can get these 6 yahoos to agree to a flavor, we know we got gold mine, right? Sure. So all of a sudden I make the gummy, the chewable vitamin C's, and I make the hair, skin, and nails gummies for the girls, and I got the adult gummies and the kids gummies, and about 600 batches later, they're like, hey, these are good. What? Lock it, trademark it, let's go. And it just kind of, all of a sudden we have 75 SKUs. That's how many different things we have. Wow. And I've just been around this for everything. I just made stuff for me. I'm like, and I have 50 other brands in my stores. I don't care what you buy as long as you buy it for me and you like it.
Right.
But, the popcorn was that we used to sell this other brand's protein popcorn. A lot of these businesses come out of my general annoyance of what other businesses do, to be perfectly honest with you. And all of a sudden it was gone. And then we found out the guy that was making it was falsifying the label, lying on the label, which drives me nuts and makes a lot of distrust in our industry.
Yep.
So 600 batches in our kitchen, kid you not, over 6 months. I gained 20 pounds taste testing Brittany's protein popcorn. Now, she's the inventor behind this. I just had the chemistry portion.
Yeah.
We wanted it healthy. We wanted it efficacious. And we also didn't want you to know it was healthy unless we told you. Like, had to taste that good. And here we are 3 years later, launched it at 2 different Mr. Olympia events. We think we've given out over 25,000 sample bags. We're in Hy-Vee grocery stores, food store chains, gas station chains, nutrition stores. And that's where the nutraceutical and the protein popcorn came from, was just social media, just me being me. I have other store owners from other states that we don't really compete against, but maybe we do a little bit. And I had a guy, a buddy of mine, Caleb, from Supplement HQ down in Wichita. He was new a couple years ago. He's like, hey, would you care? I know this is really audacious of me to ask this, but if I came up and just talked to you, I'm like, sure. So he drove up on a Tuesday night, and I'm like, let's go to the tour, man. I went and showed him the warehouse, showed him our entire operation, told him if he needed help, I'd help him. And he's like, wow, this is nuts. He goes, I'm not going to franchise from you. I'm like, I know. It's cool. You're a good dude.
Yeah.
That's it. And I've done that. And all of a sudden, with this, over the last many years on social media, I'm just helping other store owners just because, they need help.
Yeah.
And so I got my buddy Darren up in New York. He has 2 different stores in Farmington and in New York City. He carries the protein popcorn, all the vitamins. And then, buddy Jason down at Jacksonville Nutrition, he carries it. Then you got guys in Texas. And all of a sudden I've got a big network, and I just was like, hey, if you guys want to carry it, cool. If you don't, cool. But then my platform with Rexius Nutrition is so large compared to everyone else because I have so many more stores. A lot of times these guys are making their own line, and I'm kind of like the home run hit for them. I'm like, I'll tell you what, I'll pick up yours, you pick up mine, we homie high five, we both have brands, cool, and that's pretty much how it goes. Wow. And it just, between the speaking engagements, between, the podcast, and it just grows the brand more and more. It was fun. We opened up in Hot Springs, Arkansas in May, and Brittany and I flew down there. I didn't even know where Hot Springs was. I had to look it up on a map. And it's a great area, great guy, great family. They run and own the store, and we're opening weekend, and we're meeting and greeting people, and I'm like, hey, how'd you hear about us? Because you always do that. You test where the marketing's coming from. You see us on Facebook, you see us on LinkedIn, and this couple go, well, we drove over from Little Rock. It's about an hour. I'm like, oh, sweet, thanks for coming over. Like, what brought you guys? Oh, we watch your podcast. And I look over at my wife. I'm like, we're famous. You know what I mean? And
we did it.
We did it. People know us in random states, and we've got that a lot now, from Arizona to Arkansas to all sorts of places, and that's just ridiculously humbling to me. But
yeah,
it's just and now we're looking at doing a hormone therapy clinic here in Omaha, just because I don't like what's out there, and that's usually us. It's all about that, building a family empire, and that's what I feel is what God's pushing me towards. Is not so much what I'm going to have now, but saving for my kids and my grandkids and my great-grandkids. Yeah. It's up to the first patriarch of the family to save for multiple generations in the future, because I came from nothing. I've got nothing. I've received nothing. I've inherited nothing.
Yeah.
And if you want to have major impact on society and your communities as a whole, you have to have a family vision. Yeah. And we've set up all of them down. They understand why we do what we do. Our kids are part of this. It's part of the Rexius Army. And our friends are our family. We don't have friends. We have family, And I've had this with our staff. Like, here's why I do what I do. Here's why I am the way I am. Here's my faith. And here's my vision. Here's what I see for everybody. I make every person that works for me give me their 5, 10, and 15-year goals. And we sit there and go over it. I'm like, how can I get you there?
Yeah.
If it's got nothing to do with me at all,
Sure.
fine. How do I get you there?
Yeah.
I've helped employees get jobs at Google. I've helped people get all sorts of crazy stuff, and start other stores, start other businesses, other companies, and nothing gives me more joy than seeing that. So I just want to be that guy, in their story someday. Be like, well, I used to work for this guy. Awesome dude. And I want that story because that's how you build legacy.
Absolutely.
Legacy means a lot. Like, what did they say about you at your funeral? Should mean a lot more than how much money's left in your bank account.
100%.
So.
Tons of nuggets that we could unpack from that. But I feel like if we were to title this episode, like leaving a legacy is like what I see just all over your life, the way you build your family, everything you said about, have friends, you have family. I mean, so many great things that you can take away from what you just said.
I guess what would you say to somebody that's like in their head about, taking that leap of faith, stepping out, wanting to start something? I mean, everybody wants a business, everybody wants to start something. But it takes a whole another mindset to actually get up and do it. Like you said, we're a little crazy. There's a little crazy to it. So what would you say?
You have to sit down and honestly, and this is the biggest thing, and I do this a lot, you have to, especially right now in this economy, you need to seriously sit down, pen and pad, and seriously do an honest audit of yourself. What are your skills? What are your weaknesses? And you need to be honest with yourself. The last 10 years, and pretty much since 2011, 2012, it's been the golden era for entrepreneurism. I mean, you didn't even have to be very good to be successful. Well, that's going to change right now. Supply and demand chains effect on the world supply, credit lending, all these things are going to change a lot of things in the game, and only the true tough-skinned people are going to be left. And so you need to be honest. Are you taking the job because you don't like your boss? Are you taking your job because you don't want to have a boss? Are you taking the job because you want to be able to lead other people? Are you taking this just for monetary? Or are you willing to live dirt broke for as long as it takes? Are you willing to put in 5-10 years worth of work before you really see the financial dividends come back? I mean, that's a lot of things you need to be honest with. And, I think for me, after living homeless for about 6 months when I was 19 and 20 and I started my first company, that as long as I had a roof over my head and the power was on, I'm good. Which, is interesting because, my wife has different standards than that. And so do my kids. And so it's that perfect blend now at this stage. But, and Brittany has to remind me every once in a while, she goes, Tim, we're not broke. I know, but I operate like I am.
Yeah.
It's just that I'm not where I think I should be yet.
Sure.
And it's funny because everyone else that's around my age or, guys who are a little bit younger than me that work for me, they're like, I hit 41 this year and this last year. And they're like, you're not happy where you're at? I'm like, no, I thought I'd be here. They go, why? Because that's what I'm chasing, And one employee goes, you make me feel really bad about myself. I was pretty happy where I was. And then here you're not. I'm like, well, but some of the guys that I looked up to, my mentors were those type of guys.
Yeah.
And I don't want somebody who's just satisfied where they're at. I want somebody who's reaching for the stars, who wants to go do something. And so it really, for any aspiring entrepreneurs or people who are struggling, you need to have a serious sit down audit of yourself.
Yeah.
I've seen too many people who want, and we get this a lot around here. People want to own the store. They want to own a gym. I get 25 to 30 times a month. I get that message.
Totally.
And it's couples that they look at Brittany and I as a goal, which is awesome.
Yeah.
It's very humbling. Not understanding that it took us 20 years to get here. And there's been a lot of ups and downs, a lot of times where, we had to really struggle and figure out like, okay, well, I'm not paying those two, but I'll pay this one. There's been a lot of times like that. It wasn't even that long ago. People don't realize like how hard it was for us to even buy a house because I'm co-signed to 30 properties. So it looks like I'm making like negative $1 million a year.
Right.
Just all the little struggles. Like it's hard to get loans. It's hard to buy homes. It's hard to do a lot of things. Sometimes your kids have to go without. I mean, it was, like Noah is 9 and he is probably the first child in my house to get a new bike ever. Every other bike I bought for my kids, it was used because I didn't have the money. I just didn't for the longest time. The older kids, there's a gap between them all, but
sure.
I bought them on Craigslist or Marketplace, cleaned them up good as I can. And I mean, until this last, they got the Switch thing, right? I bought that new. That was probably the first game system ever. The Wii, the Wii U, all bought used. Just a lot of things that I had to sacrifice. And understanding as an audit that whoever you're with, they're making that sacrifice too.
Absolutely.
And, and you can't do a business in spite of your spouse either. They need it's even if they're not going to work in the business, they need to be supportive. So it's a serious audit of your relationship. What are your goals for your kids? What are your goals for this? And most people, and this is just me being honest, don't have the thick skin to make it that decade it's going to take.
Yeah.
It took me 20 years to become an overnight success. And it's constantly like, God, you're just like going to nowhere. I'm like, oh, you didn't see the 10 years of me working 80 hours a week, It's just funny now, like having weekends off from the stores. That's new. It's only 2 years, where I wasn't working Saturdays and Sundays.
Yeah.
And that's just more or less because my kids got older and they started having stuff, and but it's just a serious audit of yourself,
Yeah, no, that's really good. I think people always look at their situations and then compare it to because we live in like a microwave culture. People want things now. People want things, quickly, overnight success. Like you said, it took you 10 years. People don't see, we can relate. People don't see the grind.
But yeah, and that's the thing is people want the lifestyle I have now, not doing the work it took to get to that lifestyle. And there's nothing wrong with that. And there was I think Gary Vee did a thing on this, and I just, other than recording podcasts, I listen to them nonstop.
Yeah.
I'm a constant improvement guy.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's self-improvement. It's home improvement. It doesn't matter what it is. I just can't.
Yeah.
I don't sit still. And Gary Vee had a thing, and all these wannabe entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs at a conference, and he had them all raise their hand. I go, how many of you people would like to have been the 27th employee at a corporation? And no one raises their hand. Like, no, I'm the founder. I'm the first. I'm the second. Then he goes, okay, how about the 27th person hired at Facebook? And all of a sudden, dead silence. Not realizing that guy is now worth $100 million. Mm-hmm. That's where I meant by auditing yourself. Are you a good entrepreneur? Are you a good person, like a good team member? Are you a good number 2, number 5, number 10 in a company you believe in that you're going to put time in? Nothing wrong with that. I would love to be the 27th guy at Facebook to a certain degree. I mean, and people have this perception that I need to be this or that to get this financial goal. It's not true. Yeah. If you work for a good company with a good leadership, like they take you with, because you become an intangible asset to the business. You just need to be real honest with why you're doing what you're doing.
So I guess the last thing that we would ask, like, what would be something that you would want to leave us with? Like, just the great wisdom that you've just gathered, all the beautiful wisdom and the gray hair that comes with the many years of wisdom. What would you leave us with?
Pay it forward to your neighbor. At the end of the day, it takes nothing to be kind. In the end of the day, it takes nothing to be kind, and you don't know what somebody else's secret pain is. It doesn't matter if it's the person at the grocery store, if it's the person at the gas station, if it's the person at the doctor's office. Just be obnoxiously kind, not like cheesy, but kind. And be an example. I've always said that. Just one time a day, just do something kind for somebody with no thoughts for yourself for 30 days, and watch how it changes your mindset. Be the person that hauls the shopping cart that's in the middle of the parking lot back in. Don't say anything. Everybody else will watch you do it. Pick up the trash in the parking lot for a building you don't own and just clean it up. Keep our earth clean, right? You do little things like that. And it's amazing how the people around you, just positivity. My biggest goals aren't money. It's literally just to have other people around me be happy and be somebody's day maker.
Mic drop.
Let's go. Yeah.
Well, Tim, thank you so much for sharing your time and all of your wisdom with us. I'm going to have to go back and take notes on this episode to really capture all of the little nuggets that you shared. But where can we find you on social media for people that want to check out more of your content, check out your awesome podcast, all the amazing things you guys are doing?
Easiest way is timrexius.com, TIMREXIUS.com. It links to all the podcasts, all 5 different companies, every forum for different podcasts. Timothy D. Rexius on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. Now or Never podcast, you'll find it all there. It's funny. I think timrexius.com gets 5 times as many clicks a month as all the other companies combined.
Wow.
Which I told my wife, that's my mic drop for my wife. So,
Heck yeah.
That's awesome.
That's amazing. Yeah, definitely check out his stuff. His podcast is awesome. We had the honor to be on it at one point, and I think, what are you at, episode 50 something or?
Something like that.
Something like that. So it's been over a year.
I start recording more here this next week. We'll do 3 episodes on next Thursday.
Heck yeah. So Now or Never podcast, definitely check it out. It's awesome.
And if you're on YouTube watching this, make sure that you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell to be notified when we drop podcasts every Friday, dropping vlogs, bonus content throughout the week. So make sure you stay tuned on YouTube. And if you are listening on a podcasting platform that has ratings, make sure you leave a rating. Let us know what you think of the show. We really appreciate any of your guys' feedback. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will see you in the next episode.
Peace.